So we have been, a bunch of people here in the department has been on the strategic planning meetings for Stanford lately. And then we have been hammered over the past 2 years with what are the priorities for Stanford Medicine looking forward. So if you just look at this over here, some of the highlights that were discussed, so this is definitely something that is going to be pushed looking forward to 2025. Deliver human-centered, high-tech, high-touch care and revolutionize biomedical discoveries. Amplify the impact of Stanford innovation globally. It is definitely one that they're going to be looking quite a lot. Accelerates discoveries and knowledge from human biology. Our current president at Stanford is a guy who has been in academia. He has been at Genentech. His company got acquired. He's back into academia now. And he's pretty much a lot about how to collaborate with the industry and how to promote innovation. And there is the idea of discovered here used everywhere. So we want to harness the power of Stanford University's 7 schools to advance translational medicine and improve global health. So a lot of the residents especially, I mean, you got attracted to here, at least some of you, because you do like this profile of innovation at Stanford, or this sort of bias towards innovation that we have here. Or otherwise we wouldn't be here. So what we, in our department, even, has been ingrained with this. We basically wrote the book, literally we wrote the book on healthcare innovation here at Stanford. We put this in a method that has the beginning and an end, and otolaryngology has been part since the very beginning of this specialty. So in another hand, we have more people here with experience with medical innovation. In its beginning, Nick has been in a bunch of projects. I think Sam too has recently been involved with another project that has been quite innovative. So we have a bunch of people here that has been working with this since the beginning. We have a bunch of people that have been trained in biodesign as well. So I actually put my disclosures on the third slide because I was on quote, kind of when I was recruited to work over here, my thoughts would be mostly clinical work and surgical work. But it's almost impossible to escape this ecosystem, if you will, that we have over here. So you end up, and it's quite attractive. The hard part is how to focus and to work and how to get out of the whole rule and how do you actually can deliver something. So you end up getting involved being scientific advisory board of a bunch of startups when you are around here. You traditionally, surgeons and physicians everywhere, you are usually requested to be a PI in trial or maybe some advisory work. But here it's quite common that you're going to be involved since the very beginning with Stanford students. And at the beginning it can be quite overwhelming, and especially for the residents too. So what we want to do with Otoinnovation is kind of provide you a framework of all of us who did a lot of this homework already. I cannot tell you how much time I lost over the past 8 years when you try to get involved with this and you don't know actually where to start. So I think our goal is going to be to provide a framework for the faculty and for the residents alike. Because one thing that we feel is we want to start work with the residents soon. It gives you time to develop a project well. And what we see quite frequently happening is that you guys are super busy at the beginning of residency. And then when you are a chief resident of 4th year, you don't have the time to complete it. So what we want to do is kind of try to create a framework that we can help you as well. And this work can actually be quite fun. So we have people here that not only studied in biodesign, but actually are very successful entrepreneurs that have companies that were pretty fruitful. And he's an active part of our project as well. Peter, where are you? Yeah, you were there. So I hope that he has been excellent and quite helpful in taking this out of the floor. So what we really want is a way to increase the translational capacity of our department in collaboration with biodesign, Spark, and other centers of excellence at Stanford. This is a somewhat of a need statement that we came up with. And you are hearing me talking about this for quite a while now, but I want to kind of show you what we already did and how can we help you move forward here. This is all the people that have been, unquote, formally trained on biodesign. We have, per capita, the biggest amount of people biodesign trained compared to any other department. What ends up happening with the faculty as well is that we get swamped with clinical activities and with OR and clinic, and then we end up not having time to put time onto this. So what we want to do is as well, all these people went through the Biodesign Faculty Fellowship or the Biodesign Innovation courses, and we want to keep that active in a faculty level as well. I want to take the time to introduce Dr. Massa. Solange, where are you? Oh, she's there. Solange, do you want to introduce yourself and tell me, who are you?
So Ronson and Peter got me from the other coast. I'm a medical doctor, then I did a PhD in medical devices and biomaterials. So now I specialize in trying to replace all our medical devices and create new medical devices, biodegradable drug delivery. So that's what I'm doing right now at Otoinnovation. Getting all these projects and trying to generate prototypes of those projects to see if they are future products.
Yeah. Thank you, Solange. So yeah, she's just Argentinian. That's the only bad part. World Cup's coming. You know it.
I know.
It's true. So we have all of us over here that were, again, trained on this. And Stanley is there already. He didn't even know that, but he's on the team. So how do we want to help you? The first thing that was, when we start thinking about this, it was education. How can we educate the residents? How can we teach us this thing? You know, we saw the light. This biodesign thing is awesome. It is so fantastic. We want to educate everybody into this. Then Anna Matter said, no, we don't have the time. You guys are swamped, overwhelmed. You have no spots to teach you this thing a weekend or so. So I'm still going to get to be annoying. I'm going to grab a couple of sessions on Res Ed, and I'm going to teach you and take advantage of some grant rounds. Peter is going to give another session to you guys as well on biodesign. We're going around and trying to get to that. So the main thing I want, at the beginning I had this naive illusion that I wanted to teach you the biodesign course with a focus on ENT. It's not going to happen. But what at least I want to kind of try to make you know is how to be a good needs finder. And that is the key, and that's where doctors are actually more attractive in general. Nobody has a better insight than you what clinical problems are. But not necessarily a clinical problem is a need by definition. And knowing how to analyze if that is actually a need and there is a potential for a research project or for a company or something along the line, that's our goal. We all here have mentored biodesign students in the past. The fellowship, now there is the global faculty training in terms there as well. So we have the global faculty training and we have the innovation course students. Every year we have all these people rotating throughout otolaryngology. They come up with dozens of clinical problems. Do you guys know where those clinical problems are? They do a lot of homework to try to find research projects for you, and nobody does anything with those. So what we're going to start collecting now, we're going to save those needs that the biodesign team is working and refining, put a lot of effort, and we're going to make a needs database. And Rush is going to talk a little bit about this. I and Peter, we are going to present a course at Academy this year. Hopefully this is going to get accepted, where we are going to as well talk about this process of innovation in healthcare. So those are some of the needs that just the global faculty training came to analyze on the weeks that they are here. You can see, thank you, Intan, for sending this today. So what we have here is a well-analyzed description of the problems that a team of engineers, students, they see in our clinic when they rotate with us. There are just some of them over here. A better way to manage recurrent otitis media in children 1 to 5 years old is to eliminate the need for surgery. So we can go on some analysis about the problem, the population, and the outcome that would be great to eliminate surgery, eliminate ENT visits and anesthesia, and reduce risk of complications. So those are some examples of problems and needs that were seen, analyzed by a team, but that were wasted after they rotate over here. So what we want to do is we will make a database with this, and then residents can explore it. We do have quite frequently. We have engineers that come over here, they want to work in a project. We mean to make a good database of any specific oncology, facial plastics, any problems when they rotate with you guys, we just want to store and making sure we have it over there. So someone can work on them later. Rush, that is right there, he is a biodesign fellow. He is now a biodesign faculty, and he's working on a software-based platform that we can actually rank those needs in order of importance considering, actually, Rush, I don't want to talk. Why don't you tell us what is it that you have been done?
So thank you for having me as a guest. So the same problems that Robson mentioned around, needs go into an Excel document or a Word document and they get lost is something that is being experienced all over sort of the biodesign ecosystem, not just in academia and medicine, but also in companies. And so what we're trying to do from the biodesign program's perspective is provide tools that allow you all to capture and retain that information and to organize it in an efficient way so that, so this is a screenshot of the beta system. You see ATTR1, ATTR2, 3, those are attributes. So you would assign a score to an individual variable, like do I understand the mechanism of action of this problem? Score 1 to 5 or 1 to 10, however you define the rankings. So you rank on understanding the mechanism of action. The next score would be, what's the severity to the patient? Is it a really severe problem? Does it result in death? Or is it just like a paper cut? And again, you rank on every sort of individual variable, and collectively, those give you an idea of, is this need a good need or not, in a way that gets everybody aligned. And so we're trying to do that in a much more systematized process than what's sort of been done historically.
Yep. And that is something that we are partnering with Rush. So we are going to be one of the pilots that having a very well-organized needs database, perhaps the first department, to have well-organized. So I think for faculty it's going to be great because if you do have postdocs that want to work with you and you already have faculty or students from biodesign collecting the needs for you, or students, or even yourself if you see a clinical problem. So, Rush, do you have, so you have people who are not versed into make need statements, considering outcome, population, and so. Can you just put clinical problems and attach some references in there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you throw stuff in there, it's a full, I don't know if you have access to the internet, I could just show the demo.
Okay, we can show perhaps.
After.
Yeah. Exactly. So we can show, so basically you can, any idea, you are on the OR and you are seeing difficulty, you know what, how can there is a good amount of dehiscence after doing end-to-end anastomosis for gut stenosis. Write down, this is a problem I have in there, so then we can have people working on those needs and kind of trying to figure this out. So, Intan, do you want to tell a little bit what you're doing? So introduce yourself and tell what you're doing, please.
Thank you. So my name is Internal Cusker, and so I'm a mechanical engineer by background from Australia. Just here for 6 months, and I'm helping Otoinnovation just doing a few bits and pieces. One of the things I'm helping with the needs database. I'm also working with the other global faculty and training to bring their needs and then sort of input it into this database. And I'm also helping manage some of the projects. I'm working with Dr. Kristen Stevenson with her project and sort of basically facilitating in terms of getting some other collaborators in, engineers and other people from different faculty to help with the project. So facilitating the network.
She's basically doing a very cool job too. She's picking up a clinical problem and making it become a need statement and doing a deeper analysis into some of this. So she's been quite helpful. Thank you, Intan. So one way that it looks like, Kristen, thank you for allowing this to be used. So what we have is, you all saw Kristen presenting a very good grand rounds on this problem. So what we do is on Zeus now we can organize her problem, unquote. We can take a look and we can take a better look about what are actually the exact points. How can we rank the need? How can we analyze that? So that is something that this is going to look into the needs database afterwards. So another thing that we may, Kristen, you may want to talk. So what we are doing, especially for the residents and for the faculty, we ask you to fill a risk analysis. So basically, we ask you to place your problem and do yourself an initial analysis. So, Kristen, do you want to tell a little bit, do you think that was useful by any chance or no?
Oh yeah, absolutely, because I actually found a greater need than probably I expected when I was looking. So a little bit into the specifics, trying to identify a specific cause for episodic vestibular disorders, the two main players you think of beyond BPPP are vestibular migraine and Meniere's disease. And I thought of that as a more kind of specific problem to otoneurology, neurotology, but looking at the greater scheme of the burden of dizziness, especially when you think of lost functional work hours, the amount of diagnostic expenditure spent in both emergency department settings as well as outpatient settings, really could become this huge intervention if we do it strategically. So I thought this was really helpful in terms of showing the breadth of the address that we could get from this type of intervention, and then it was just a nice way of organizing my thoughts as well.
So thank you for doing this, Kristen. So yeah, so we usually ask you to almost think as if you are a startup pitching, how would you describe the size of your problem? So that's what we are asking the faculty to kind of just go and do a good risk analysis, looking what is existing or not on that. And actually, I feel that is quite useful, even before you start your research project, to have a broader idea what is the size of the need, the size of the problem, doing this in an organized way. And then another thing that we can do is we can, after we know well what's going on, we can go after partners and collaborators to help. We are kind of almost like, if you will, a small accelerator for projects. So we then go and we start looking at who can help Kristen move her project forward, what homework has been done already. So we looked into a lot of ophthalmology faculty that has been working with eye movements, and then we reached to Jem, fantastic guy that has been working on this field since 2006, and it's completely unrelated, but for traumatic brain injuries, especially concussion in football players and vets that have, they can do a lot of the text looking at involuntary eye movements. So he already has a project called iSync, and he's really knowledgeable, and he actually is working, looking at the vestibular space. I don't know if you guys had the chance to talk, but
Next week.
yeah. So we can definitely connect you with Stanford faculty who are already working in projects. We can definitely go and find partners for you to reach your research project outside of ENT. So that is another thing that we want to be helpful to you as well. So another example that what we can do. Solange, do you want to talk a little bit about this project?
Sure. So once we have the need recognized and really well studied in the market and everything you saw before, then it's time to do the research. Which are the materials that are appropriate? What is the prototyping methods that you need? What are the drugs that you need if you need it? So at this time, we are currently working on a mucoadhesive drug delivery material that is funded by Spark. And we are working on a tympanic membrane solution to replace equalization tubes as we know them. We are creating a form of spray. So everything that you see as plastic can be turned into a biomaterial in this case. And that's what we're doing. And I'm also working with the nano facilities to characterize all these materials.
And then looking at that, we do a little bit of a reverse thought process here, but where else can that be worked? So Peter did everybody knows him, he's great. He did a fantastic work on that. So we are looking what else can we place his product. So we have been working with him as well to try to how we can use growth factor in the oral cavity, what kind of utilizations. We initially thought about looking into to try to reduce the rate of post-selective bleed and improve pain post-operatively. We went pretty deep into that, but it's really, really hard to make studies. And we still think it is a sizable and good need, but it's hard to make studies, and it's another hard place to find a way of delivering it. So we found an IP we have to that. So the program has resulted to some intellectual property. Very importantly, this results in publications for us. So in that order, first file your IP and then you disclose, learn that. You guys know that very well, but please don't publish something without filing the IP. But then at this moment we are pivoting a bit. So we are looking into another possible utilization for the growth factor that could be used into patients with oral mucositis post-radiation therapy to the oral cavity. So that is definitely something that the Spark folks are quite interested. Now, Peter, you are awfully quiet. You are the father of the child. Do you want to talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, I guess part of it was you sort of explained the pivot, how And I guess one of the benefits of Otoinnovation, you kind of see the problems ahead of time. So we, as we're working towards a treatment to prevent post-tonsillectomy bleeding, we realised that our clinical trial size probably would have to be 200 patients in each arm. And a lot of people shook their heads and said they'll never ever fund that. So we had to quickly work out what are the indications, and we came across oral mucositis in head and neck cancer. It's an 80% incidence, 400,000 people per year. So we thought that's probably something where we can pivot to. So we started to work and do some proof of concepts in the oral mucositis area. I don't know if you get to the next slide, but we actually opened up collaborations with Susan Knotts, Quinn Lee in radiation oncology, Peter Yang in orthopedics, all bring them in to help collaborate and show this forward. So I think one of the benefits is we can really test proof of concepts quickly in the lab, see if they work. If they don't, then we throw them out. If they work, then we keep going forward.
Exactly. So that's kind of the whole sense. So sometimes you don't necessarily need to keep going in that research. We do this quick analysis. We kind of pivot fast. And then talking about the lab, Solange, please, it's your time again. So I want to congratulate Solange. This is our lab on the Edwards building. Thank you. It's cute. We have 3D printers in every space for you to work in there. We do have some prototype material. If you have any ideas or thoughts in mind, if the residents want to hide, it's a good place to go, as long as you want to look into some of the projects that we do have available, or if you have projects of your own. Solange, tell us a bit more about the lab.
Yeah, it's a very new space. I have been here for 2 months, so we're still working on it, but you can see it over there. It's for basically to use 3D printing and rapid prototyping of any ideas you may have or any concepts you have in mind. Once we go through a need statement and there's a real need and there's a real market, then we go into prototyping. And that's what this space is for. I want to thank Intan that she has been here for a month. She's my point of reference. She's your point of reference. She's the one doing all the hard work, so thank you for that. So she's the project manager right now.
I wanted to just comment that this is a department resource. It's not our resource.
Exactly.
And it's freely available. You don't have to even really ask us. It's yours to use. We're creating it for the department. So if you want to prototype something, do something cool in 3D printing, then we have the facility for you to actually come and do it.
And we have the people, all like very talented people that can help you with the products. So our next steps now that we are working on is that if we can create the Otoinnovation Award or grant. So we want to have students in design and engineering rotating through our departments and spending time with you. And if you have if you agree and if you want someone exploring the needs and the clinical problems you have with you, we definitely like your participation over here. We have been talking about this idea of if you have a fellow in otology, facial plastics, or any of the areas we have over here, laryngology, that want to spend some time, or maybe a year, doing a clinical fellowship and then with significant component into this, definitely would be something that we would love to have. We got a Spark grant, we got that renewed now in 2017. So our goal as well, I think we do have Spark and in a sense all the culture grants. This can potentially generate a lot of projects that can tap into culture grants. That's actually our goal, to make a very streamlined way of tapping into culture grants that have this translational character in this. And this I didn't even know, Peter. Do you know? This is Stanford Nano Shared Facility. What is this one? That one I didn't know. This is the last one.
As I have a background in nanomaterials and nanoparticles, I decided to show what we were doing to the nano-shared facilities, and they said we could use their equipment, which is very, very expensive, and they gave us a grant to characterize the materials, to characterize the nanoparticles. So
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, we're using
awesome.
great things for free.
That's awesome. That's very good. So again, we do have the resources, we do have the spaces, we do have the people, we just need you now. Over here. Now, we do have some global presence and ambitions too, if you will. We do have several courses and hackathon models that we are participating in Brazil. I don't know why, and in Hong Kong this year. So we're gonna, in both of them, we're just gonna have an immersion area in otolaryngology, and we are gonna collaborate. We already have the Spark Collab in Australia then we do have at least one project that we are helping. So a domestic project from Biodesign. Rush may have some familiarity with this project that we are helping to produce some data in Australia as well. So sometimes we do have the capacity to, if you do have to increase your recruitment of patients still, that is something that sometimes may be a bit slow at Stanford. We may have capacity to increase that abroad. And if you do have interest in teaching the process of participating, definitely there are some opportunities for you as well if you want to spend a week in Brazil or in Hong Kong. This is last year in Brazil. We ran a 10-day course over there, and that's some of the projects that we worked on. A project for wound healing in open wounds after trauma. So I wanted to wrap up. This is going to be somewhat of a short lecture, or more presentation or discussion in a sense. So how can you get involved, especially again for the residents? If you do have an idea, or the faculty as well, if you do want to start collecting the clinical problems that you do face on a day-to-day basis, or if you interact with the biodesign students, being the innovation course, the fellows, or the global faculty in training, just ask them to collect the clinical needs and they're going to provide it. What we are going to do is we are going to organize that in a needs database with Rush's help, and then we're going to rank those needs. We are going to do some homework with help of Ethan. We're going to start exploring and doing a better literature search and market search into that need and rank them. Definitely then in a second step, we can help you with the brainstorming and to do a risk assessment analysis of your idea and see if it is something worth it pursuing or not. Then we can have space, we have resources, and we have the people to help you with prototyping and brainstorming. Then in the third phase, that's the implementation phase, how we are going to do this part over here. That is definitely something that I do believe that we have a pretty high capacity over here of working, or we're going to help you getting grants, or if you want to license your project, definitely something that we are interested in helping going all the way through this. And at this point, I want to ask questions. Nick, do you have any questions? You look like you do. So.
I always have questions.
Yeah.
No, I think it's very exciting. I look forward to going through some more specific examples about how we can make this work when we come up with clinical questions.
Yeah, and clinical problems.
I can add, I hope you don't mind using your example, Kristen. But this week, the problem that Kristen was working on was how to get almost an at-home Holter monitor, if you say, for the vestibular system. So we actually were able to bring in 2 mechanical engineers, an electrical engineer, a cardiologist, and us in the room, and we spent an hour coming up with maybe 50 mostly crazy concepts, but some useful. And it was, I guess, almost like a hackathon in terms of trying to do that. And I think one thing was Kristen had an idea, and then taking that through to maybe concept generation at the moment, and hopefully we're going to take that to the next phase of working out which of those are actually good and not, and that. So I think yours is a good example of how we can take an idea into something more than an idea.
And a much more immediate result, as opposed to kind of going through bureaucracy or hoping someone else will come with something kind of close to what your goal would have been. It's a very specific answer to a clinical problem.
Joe, what do you think?
This is a good opportunity, at least from a trainee standpoint. It's a good opportunity for everybody, but I can't imagine having something more set up at your fingertips with people who really want to help you out, that are with low walls and open doors for you guys, because there's constantly things that you guys may see that we don't even see, or why don't you do this, why don't you do that, and we're, like you said, we're doing cases all day long, and this is a way that you can actually put it down, have other people who are, way smarter than I am as a clinician come in and help you analyze the problem, So I would take as much advantage of this as possible if it's something that interests you.
Yep. Rush, what do you think about, really, it's not, but I really want to kind of, now that you have an idea about everything that we are doing, now as a biodesign industry guy that is doing this, what do you think about this biodesign department-specific opportunity? What are your thoughts? I mean, what are the roadblocks you see? What are the issues?
Well, I'd say first off, if your goal in coming into medicine was to make patients' lives better, on a single clinic day, how many patients do you see? 5, 20, somewhere in that range? 50, 100, depending on which specialty. So if you're only seeing, in a week, a certain number of patients, if you come up with an innovation that could scale to everyone who is treating those types of patients globally, then your impact on patient healthcare scales beyond your individual person's time. And that's really the goal. And these tools are just best practices that a lot of people have sort of done a lot of things the wrong way and learned and made all the hard mistakes. And they're just tools to help you do better than sort of what we have done previously coming out of it.
Correct. Yeah, and I think that's the beauty of biodesign. When I joke that they wrote the book, they literally wrote the book after making all the mistakes. The thing about biodesign is they provide you a roadmap. That's kind of the beauty of the method. Provide you a roadmap on how to do it. And even them, we are trying to make this department specific, to make it a little bit more kind of productive.
So can you add a little bit more, or kind of give thoughts? Like, I mean, it's easy to get ideas, and the brainstorming is fun too. And I think the hard part then is going from that part to that implementation, that last stage right there. And that's the most nebulous part, I mean, most challenging.
So we usually, I'm going to oversimplify this, of course, but as clinicians, we are pretty good about identifying problems.
Right.
We are pretty bad about how we solve them. And that's where I think that this multidisciplinary character of what we are trying to do is important, because those guys are pretty good about trying to brainstorm how can we address this. The other thing that we can do is, a lot of times what you think it is a problem is really not a problem. And that is another part that I think there is a good methodology to understand, especially when we do the risk analysis. If a problem is a problem, or if a problem is a much bigger issue than you initially thought. So that is another thing that I think we have that is a pretty good methodology that we can help. Now, how we are going to implement, we have a couple of examples for, like Peter licensed his technology to Oration Biotech, and right now it's a successful endeavor here at Stanford. I think we have a pretty good path for some of the other stuff that we are doing as well, because that is another part that for me, at least on this 8 years, has been quite this gray area. Yes. So if I have an idea and I have an IP at Stanford, how do I license this? How do I go towards this? So Solange did a great job about kind of streamlining all the possible paths that you can go, depending what kind of product you have and how do you want to move forward, or do you want to move forward just with your research idea.
And do these individuals or that help like with patent ideas or things of this sort? I mean, or is that a separate entity?
No. That's what we want to help. That's exactly what we want to help you file your provisional. We want to help you file a police claim.
So I've met with the OTO office so that we have a faster path towards patenting something, towards protecting our invention. And what you're saying is the most important part, implementing, doing the R&D process, it's really tedious. We have experts in different fields, and if not, we can just send them an email and say, okay, we have this amount of money and we have this problem. Help me use your lab to create this prototype or to create what we need. So we're looking for collaborators that are experts in each of the fields, and then trying to have a good relationship with OTLs so that we can patent fast and license fast, or even do a startup if you have the right people for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That's Tulu, what do you think? Is this something that you usually used to have available? When you have your ideas, what do you think?
So I got, being in Connecticut, I had a lot of difficulty basically with the licensing and technology office. And in fact, every single patent that I have, it's been through MIT.
Yep.
I had to go outside my institution because University of Connecticut is great for agriculture patents.
Yep.
But everything that was medically related or engineering related was really not their field, so they were not interested. If it's not a new seed or a new plant, it was not the case. So you had to go through the other licensing and technology office. I've met with the technology office at Stanford, and it's absolutely great. Things move a lot faster, so there's the spirit here to definitely develop things fast and move and protect the IP, which some places don't have that instinct.
Okay. do you think something like this within your department could have helped you develop your things? How many times you needed to pivot your
For
ideas?
me, it's been a learning process throughout time. It's taken me a long time to learn. I didn't protect my first inventions, and I learned that lesson.
Yep. And I assume a lot of us don't want to be entrepreneurs. It kind of sucks being entrepreneurs sometimes. It's not the easiest thing to be. So I think our main role as clinical faculty over here is really, we can do a lot, but not necessarily you need to be the CEO of a company. What we want to do is increase the potential of everything you do and learn how can you actually make something, as Rush was telling right now. So that's our goal. Now, we want the residents soon. We want you guys, before you go to your third year, do a biodesign innovation course, because then after you don't have the time to complete your projects. We see that quite a bit. Everybody third year decide to do the innovation course, they find God, and then they want to finish, but then there's no time because you're a teacher, apply for fellow, there's no way to finish. So kind of the juniors especially, if you want to start soon, let me know. That said, there is space for the teachers as well. Thanks guys. So you know that this is here now.